Rick, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Keith Jones.
Good, man. I like that shirt, man. Is that
Thank
comfortable?
you. Yeah, it's really great. This is a label called Cool, K-U-H-L.
Okay.
And it's really lightweight. And since I moved to Sedona, I'm wearing a lot more of the lightweight stuff for hiking because you can layer and stuff.
Right.
It's nice.
Yeah, it looks fantastic, though.
Well, thank you. And plus, it comes with a free tub of cheese when you buy
I'll
it.
pass on the cheese.
I know, your thing's hot dogs.
Yeah. yeah. That's what I'm having for lunch after the show. So, the name of the show today, or the title of the show is there any good, or what good can come out of challenging people or situations in your life?
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I guess the first question that I'd ask of you is, do you feel that you've been made a better person because of challenges that you've had? Or do you think you've behaved poorly in making choices when challenges confronted you that made you less of a person?
Absolutely. You know, I am a better person. I haven't gone through challenges. I didn't. When I was younger, I saw challenges as problems, things to be avoided and at all costs. To try to get around them, under them, over them, or something like that. I just saw much problems. But as I've gotten older, especially over the last 3 years, I've really worked on myself. And now I understand that challenges, you know, whether they're people or situations or events, are a part of life. You know, they can't be avoided. And once you understand that, you know, I look at them as opportunities.
Yeah, let's stop right there for a moment. I think that's a very important part of this whole topic, and that is that it's not just a part of life. I mean, what we call problems or challenges, that is life, right?
That is life.
It's one damn thing after another, as Mark Twain said. That's what life is, one damn thing after another. So I think people tend to have this view that once something happens that's important, once there's a benchmark that I reach in my life, the problems will stop. For example, once I get married, once I find my soulmate, everything will be cool. Or once I get rid of my soulmate and get divorced, everything will be cool. Or once I pass the bar, or once I get my medical license. But it's when you start doing that it always creates this dissonance in your mind because you expect things to go away and they don't. They keep rolling and rolling after you and after you and after you. So the first step, I think, in understanding challenges is to know that that is all there is. You know, that's pretty much going to happen until you croak.
Right. And you can look at that as, kind of like a lot of people, I used to look at dying, like, oh man, really? That's what this.
I'll be the exception.
That's where all this is headed. Like life is going to be full of nothing but problems and challenges the whole way. That's what life is really about. Man, it's pretty it's pretty discouraging. If you know, when I had that mindset, now I look at it differently. You know, I get that they're inevitable, and because they are, I have a choice in how I can view them. And my choice is that it's discouraging and that's no fun. Or I can look at them as, dude, it's opportunity for me to up my game, an opportunity for me to become an even better version of myself. Because I've learned that absence of challenges, whether it's people or situations or events, absence of those, I don't grow. I mean, if we lived in a place that the soil was rich and, you know, you drop a seed and, you know, crops sprout up, if that happened, we never know how to be great farmers who are able to adapt to whatever the climate may be. You know, if there was never, you know, we never hone in skills to become better at what we do if everything was easy. You know, a real champion a person's not a champion until they've experienced defeat. You know, it's those things that we go through that make us better. If I kept shooting the same shot every time that kept going in, then I would think there was nothing else to get better at. But once the shot gets blocked, I got to develop a left hand to be able to hit or bat left-handed to make me an even greater competitor. So you know, I start to embrace challenges now. Like, you know, okay, this is what it is. I can either be upset about it, or I can embrace it and understand that this is a path for growth.
I think that somebody said, I can't remember who it was now, but it was something along the lines of, you know, people in living their lives are a lot like garbage disposals, in the sense that if you don't have anything to grind, the machine, when it's left on, is just going to spin out of control and just burn itself out. And I think that's what happens a lot of times when we don't have problems, or we don't have obstacles, or we don't have things that need our attention. We start to create them. We start to create this burning machine kind of mentality, even though we don't know we're doing it. So I think that part of the value of having issues that come up and dealing with them well is to be able to be confident that you're ready for more the next time. That's all it is. I don't think I'm not talking about big things either, Keith. I'm not talking like, you know, you lose your job or your house is repossessed. Those are big challenges for sure, and they can help you grow. But I'm talking about little things like, you know, traffic, or I got to pick up somebody at 3 o'clock and my mom is mad because I didn't do something, and I got to, you know, call her and calm her down, and my husband and I were thinking of going over, we don't have enough money for, I mean, all of that stuff, that whole constellation of circumstance is what's going to be there all of our lives. And we have to be able to just say, this is great, I can deal with this. Good, next thing, next.
Right. So I got a question for you.
Okay.
When it comes to challenges, how have challenges prepared you to be better? And do you, in the absence of a challenge being there, will you create a challenge so you prepared for what may happen? And obviously there's some things that can happen that you can't plan for, but you develop that ability to be flexible and to pivot and hopefully be able to be successful when you change strategies. So like you go on a triathlon, does it help you to always swim in the calmest of waters? Or do you train where, hey, when I show up in the ocean, if it's rough waters, then, you know, if race day have rough waters, I'm prepared for it?
When we did the Malibu Tri a couple of years ago, you remember the night before we did the swim? Where it was like 57 degrees, and Keith says, hey, I found this trainer. He's going to give us a few tips on ocean swimming. I mean, you got to have your training out of the way by the time you get to Malibu and you're going to do a mile in the ocean. It was freezing cold, 57 degrees. We go out there in our wetsuits, and I don't think we could get like 5 strokes in because the damn water was coming over. It was just really terrible. Okay, so the answer to the question is, I think that you always create your own happiness. Let's start with that provision. And if that's true, then you have a choice about how you're going to deal with everything that shows up in your life, big or small. And I think people are happiest when they have challenges that they can handle, and they can do it repetitively and competently without complaint by people that they love. Where the rub comes in is when we get so many of these back to back, or when we have some that are very, very severe and we're not able to handle them quite in the same way or with the same ease. And I think, again, if you go back to what we've talked about in other podcasts, centering yourself, breathing, meditation, realizing that you're competent, that your monkey mind is creating more of an issue for you than what it really exists there, and that your own worst enemy is probably the way you're analyzing this, your way your mind is computing all of these terrible things that are never going to happen. When you realize that, I think that helps you become more equipped to deal with the changes. A very important part about this whole thing is that I think we have to be comfortable as humans in just realizing and having a strategy about how to deal with our daily lives so that we're not constantly fighting. I see so many people in life that are fighting their own life. You know, they just won't relax. They don't have any inner peace. They're anxious about life. And, you know, you can do that. I'm not sure it's very effective, but for them maybe it is. But at the end of the day, you get to be 65 or 70 years old, and you look back and think, wait a minute, I didn't have any life yet. I was just getting through these problems. I'm ready to have my life, and I got this disease, or I'm no longer able to do these things. I think that's a danger you have to worry about. Last point, and then I'll shut up. I have personal experience with the idea of trying to create a trouble-free environment and the negative effects of that. I moved to a beach community. I thought I was going to retire a couple of years ago. And I would literally spend the day like going to breakfast, having coffee, going to the beach, and then coming home, and then watching TV. And it was after about a week, 2 weeks of that, I thought, you know, this is really kind of like a prison. This is really crazy. I don't have any value. There's no mission in my life. I don't have any purpose. And I think that the things that we create for ourselves give us that sense of purpose.
Right.
And our ability to handle problems gives us a sense of purpose as well. Don't you feel that way too when you're dealing with not only the fitness part of your career, but also in the coaching part of your career, that you're trying to get people to be more efficient with handling things and doing it in a way that's consistent with their mission and their life purpose?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that, you know, the question I asked you before that I was trying to get at with the question was, how do you make it through the challenges so you grow and are better able to live out your purpose or whatever that mission is? And I think the more challenges that you have in your life, if you see them as a good thing, and that's what this show is about,
Yeah.
is seeing the good in the challenges, again, whether they're people, events, or situations, that if you can see them that way, that they have an incredible benefit that allow you to be flexible in how you deal with them, and you will see them not about, it's got to go away, or it's a bad thing, but rather it's something that's going to help me grow and add another dimension to my skill set, my acumen, so that I can live an even bigger life or be happier or fulfill my mission more powerfully. And so whenever I deal with somebody challenging, let's say somebody is rude or not patient, or just not somebody I want to hang out with, I'm like, man, it's an opportunity to practice compassion. It's an opportunity, more importantly, to not judge. To not judge. Like I need to. This person is serving a purpose here, and it's this. Or if a situation is extremely challenging for me, I look at it. I go from it being an irritation and a frustration or unfair, or one more thing to deal with. Of like, okay, there's something good out of this.
Yeah, that's good.
What am I going to choose to make that be here? What is that going to be? So that's kind of what I meant by having the dexterity and the agility that's developed by not resisting challenges, not making them unwelcome, because they're going to show up anyway, as we've already established. But how do I use them to my advantage?
That's right. Along those lines, I think the more flexible we are, the better. As we age, there's this natural tendency in life, I think, to become more brittle, to have this idea that we know how things work and we know how it's going to turn out, and therefore it's going to be an automatic pilot and I don't have any excitement or juice about what I'm doing any longer. But if we can create a flexibility that allows us to look at things in a new light, to look at things with the Zen idea as a beginner's mind, it's much more fulfilling for all of us. You could take something like, okay, I've got to go to court. Let's say I've got a traffic ticket and I have to show up in court. Instead of that being like, oh, it's going to take time, it's going to be expensive, I'm never going to win, I've got to waste all of that time with these other people that I don't know in a big room waiting to be called. You might say, well, I'm going to this is a great opportunity for me to see if I can make a speech about what the injustice is, about why I got arrested or why I was given a ticket. It's hey, okay, I'm going to be there. Let's make the best of it. What can I get out of this that would be kind of cool?
Exactly. In situations like that, too, like I got to go in here. I don't want to go. Life is full of things that I'm not going to want to do. What can I practice here that makes me better? And perhaps the practice that I'm going to do is being kind to people that my ego is saying they're part of this system that I got to go to court and deal with.
Yeah.
So when you go up and you tell the person and you give them your citation number and they tell you what courtroom to go to, say good morning to the attendant who's giving you the courtroom, who's giving you that information and where it's located. Good morning, how you doing? I'm here for this court case. Can you tell me where it's located? And so you get to practice being kind and thoughtful, no matter what the situation is, even when it's something that you don't want to do or you think is unfair. Like if you just treat every challenge, every situation, every person that way, man, you're gonna have a lot more happy days than you have days to where you're upset or frustrated.
Do you find yourself having times where you still resent challenges, and how do you overcome them? What's the mechanism that you go through to say, whoa, 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 wait a minute, I don't want to go down that road. I'm just going to look at this in a positive way.
You know, I have to be really compassionate with myself, because if I find myself thinking on a challenge for 2 days and I'm like worried about it or frustrated by it or irritated by it, I'm not following my steps well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not doing them in earnest, because it keeps showing up to me as worry, frustration, or something like that. So I gotta remind myself to be compassionate. Like, okay, you weren't expecting this kind of challenge. You've done well with the other ones. This is a little bit different. So there's opportunity to be ready for this kind of pitch that's coming down, the pipe. And so the way that I deal with it is I try to quickly move to what's the good in this? Like how can I grow from this? I try to move to that. Or why am I met with this challenge again? What am I not doing? Like what lesson have I not learned? And not a physical, something I can do physically to change the outcome, but what can I do internally to see it different, to come to a place of acceptance and to be with it. That's where I'm trying to go. So that's my process.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. A lot of people are stuck, I think, when they're dealing with a big obstacle because they're afraid. And I'm afraid a lot in my life. I'm afraid in my career a lot. But I think you have to have a strategy around fear where you just acknowledge, oh yeah, here's fear. Great, welcome back. I missed you. It's been a couple of weeks. I'm glad you're back. It's kind of fun to have you hanging around. But you're going to be sitting in the back seat while I'm driving this thing. You can stay in the car. I can't get rid of you, but I'm driving the wagon, right? In other words, there has to be a way of each of us coming to terms with what we fear, but still going forward without running away. A lot of people naturally, I think humans generally want to avoid fear.
Right.
And so you tend to figure out ways, excuses to avoid the issue. And that's never the right way. The right way is always through it, right? Always over the top and into it. That's the only way you can resolve it often. So I think you have to come to grips with fear and have a way of dealing with fear. Otherwise, you're doing that circular in your head, like you were saying, staying up at night, going through it for a couple of days, not coming up with anything. But if you can focus on what good there is that you might learn, what personal development might be coming out of it, and how you master that fear, I think those three things will take you a long way.
Oh, absolutely. And it could be anything. If you got a parent who's is dying, and you have to deal with their care, and it's a really challenging situation, and maybe your relationship with your parent wasn't great. Like what's the good in dealing with a challenge like that? Well, the good is that you get to practice compassion, for them, because you're headed that way. Trust me, nobody's getting out of this thing scot-free. We're all dying. And you can develop that kind of compassion so that if you have children and they are potentially going to be your caregiver, you can start, teaching them how to be compassionate to others. So when it's your turn, you get a nice person to help you with the transition instead of somebody who's resentful like you may be that you got to take care of your parent. So there's all different kind of ways to look at challenges. The more powerful way is to see them as a gift, see them as an opportunity, and avoiding them. You can try to it'd be great to minimize being, the number of times you're around somebody who's negative or challenging, or to avoid situations that are challenging. You can do all that and play it safe. And there's a great quote that says, "A comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there." And so that's how I look at life. I want to grow and I want to live a big life and help a lot of people. And to do that, challenges is what I got to come in contact with.
And I think the other thing along with that is that challenges aren't an aberration. Problems aren't an aberration. That is the very fabric of your life. That is the essence of what it means to be human. We're always going to be dealing with things that we don't want to do, as Keith said. We're always going to be dealing with things that we're afraid of. We're always going to be dealing with things that have a high level of ambiguity. You don't know how it's going to turn out. But you have to develop, we all have to develop our own way of being okay with that, because we can't keep thinking that once we get to a certain place in life, it goes away, because it never does. It never does. It's
That's
always
right.
going to be there.
That's right. But there's beauty in that.
There's total beauty in
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And if you do it well, it's kind of cool to hang around with people who have surmounted a lot
Oh
of
my
really
God,
great
they can help you
challenges.
get through it, you know?
Yeah, totally. And plus, you learn from them too. It's great if you have. I always love being around a person who will lay out my heart. I'll say, I'm really working on this thing. It's got me confused. I don't know what to do. And the person will look at me and say, "Oh man, you got it easy. Here's what we're gonna do. Boom, boom, boom. Let's have a beer."
Like, I know, right? I know, but it's great to hang around people like that. But if you hang around people that all you guys do together is complaining about your problems,
Hey.
like, dude, you guys are never going to get out of those problems. You're just going to live your whole life
Makes
inside
it
those.
worse.
You're going to live your whole life, with problems. I need to be around some people that are going to help me get out of them.
That's exactly
to
right.
overcome them and grow from them. So, Rick, great show, man.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
Good. I love you.
Hey, and thanks for stopping by, guys. We really love all the feedback that you're giving us. It really helps us take the show in the right direction. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.